Well, I guess I'd have to look back. I didn't really start hitting it hard, I think, until college. Um, Kind of zeroing in the technique thing. In high school, I began taking drum lessons, and that's where I first learned about, the importance of fulcrum and relaxing. Um, but as far as like really, really looking at how I hold the sticks and working on it, I didn't start doing that until college. There's a few, I guess if you're looking for exercises, there's a few exercises I did, um, and I kind of had down to a routine. One of them is the introduction page in a book called Rudiment Grooves by Rick Considine. In the introduction page, there's a list of what he calls the drum set rudiments, and it's just a you know one page list of maybe 20 of them in a piece, and I basically made kind of a routine out of that to play through the whole thing. Then I would play the first measure for I think like 30 seconds. And I'd play through the whole thing again, go back through, get to the second measure, do that for 30 seconds, play the whole thing, go through, and then so on and so on. And that added up to end up being like a 20 or 30 minute exercise, depending on how fast I took it. I would make sure to do that at least once a day, as part of the routine, just to get the rudiments in shape. I like playing snare drum pieces, so get get the old school Wilcoxon, Pratt, all those rudimental snare drumming books. I think those are cool. I like spending time doing that. I'm not really into modern DCI stuff. I think it's great. I like watching videos and stuff like that online, like anyone else. But I don't. There's some rudiments in there that I just don't get into. I don't. I don't know. I just don't find the use for them on drum set. Some people do. I just don't. But anyway, so the rudiment grooves page, I spent a lot of time doing that. The other thing is I just spent a lot of time. I mean, in college, I practiced 30 to 40 hours a week. It was a music school. It's Berklee College of Music. That's what you do. You're there to be immersed in music, and that's a huge part of this whole technique thing. A lot of this stuff, they're not things that I can just tell you to do and you go do it. They're things that you have to spend many hours doing. I took a few labs at college with Mike Mangini, and he always had a good thing to say when he was talking about certain concepts. Because if you want to talk about a guy who practiced for hours and hours a day, that's one of them. He always said you have to earn it. So it's not about like understanding it; it's about earning it. So if you had a concept that you couldn't do, he's like, well, because you haven't earned it yet, you haven't put in the time yet. So I think that's a really important thing to kind of have in your head, that you gotta earn these things. You gotta spend the time. But anyway, back to the technique thing. I also got into the Alan Dawson rudimental ritual for a while. That was kind of a fun routine. I was just looking for more stuff to do. It's like a 12-page thing. You can play it with sticks. You can play it with brushes. It's just a good way to clean out all the kinks with your technique. Any rudimental thing I like playing. Actually, that's with the second book I wrote. This one you should. This is basically just a catalog of all the things my hands do. I mean, it's if I ever sit down at a practice pad and noodle around, warming up, whatever, it's probably something out of this book. So these are basically all my favorite little, if you still call them licks on a snare drum. And then I just kind of categorized them all by rudiment. I'm plugging my own stuff here, but I think this would be another really good one if you're interested in my technique, because this is what I play. This is what my hands do. All this stuff right here. And this book in particular it's not meant to be like snare pieces necessarily. Like this is in a way almost kind of like a workout routine. So these pages are meant to be played over and over and over and over to kind of zero in your technique. time wise, if you want to get your hands in shape, I mean, really you should spend probably close to an hour a day on it. It depends on what area. So practice pad rudiment stuff, give that 30 minutes, and then spend another 30 minutes playing jazz ride cymbal, just the ride cymbal. That's a whole nother discussion. But just sit and put on an album and try your triple strokes. And it doesn't have to be up tempo stuff. Just getting that whole thing together. Ride cymbal technique I'll talk about briefly onward to the next question. So to answer the question, how much time do I spend practicing technique? Quite a bit, a lot. It depends on, lately I haven't spent much time practicing on it just because I'm working, I'm gigging, I'm teaching, whatever. But, usually a few hours a day. It wasn't like conscious, like, okay, I'm going to sit here and practice my technique. But it was, through learning a bunch of random vocabulary. So anyway, on to the next.